We are going through a revolution. The revolution has not ended. This is still the revolution. And unfortunately, there shall be casualties because we are dealing with a tyrant who has no solutions for the problems of Kenyans, a tyrant who has decided that his survival on that seat between now and 2027 is the only important thing. But before I go on, let me start with reminding us about some of our principles. And I want to start with starting with the reading of the preamble of our Constitution. And it reads like this. We, the people of Kenya, acknowledging the supremacy of the Almighty God of all creation, honoring those who heroically struggle to bring freedom and justice to our land. That is including the current sacrifices that are being meted on us. Proud of our ethnic, cultural, and religious diversity, and determined to live in peace and unity as one indivisible sovereign nation. Respectful of the environment, which is our heritage, and determined to sustain it for the benefit of future generations. Committed in nurturing and protecting the well-being of the individual, the family, communities, and the nation. This is the 2010 Constitution. And lastly, recognizing the aspirations of all Kenyans for government based on the essential values of human rights, equality, freedom, democracy, social justice, and the rule of law. Those are 6 tenets that are the preamble to our 2010 Constitution. And just reading by them, you know exactly where we are today in Kenya and where the government stands. The government does not recognize our aspirations. The government does not value our human rights, our equality, our freedom, our democracy. They do not adhere to any social justice, and they definitely do not abide by the rule of law. This is the current situation in Kenya. I also would like to do something that I do every time I appear on air. The last time I was on air, when I started this, I had said that I'm going to keep mentioning and naming the Gen Zs that were sacrificed during the revolution. There are 60 names that we have. This is for the revolution of June, and I had reached number 20. Number 20 was a young man called Dennis Otieno Oduor from Mombasa. 21, Emmanuel Giggs Tata of Mombasa. 22, Joash Ombati of Mombasa. Number 23, Kevin Ochieng of Siaya Hospital. Number 24, Anthony Macharia Mwangi, a Form 4 student of Isabania Boys. Number 25, Denzel Omondi was found in Thika Mortuary. Number 26, Kennedy Odhiambo Maina was also found in the city mortuary. Number 27, Wilson Sitati was also found in the city mortuary. Number 28, Kennedy Njero was found in the city mortuary. Number 29, Duncan Onsongo in the city mortuary of Nairobi. And number 30, Chris Gitonga in Nanyuki. Those are a list of 30 names that I've mentioned on air, just so that we do not forget our heroes. We must remember our heroes. We cannot go forward as a nation if we do not recognize them. You can see the preamble of our Constitution says honoring those who heroically have struggled to bring freedom and justice on our land. Those who are from the freedom fighters during the colonial period, those that have gone through the second liberation, those were also struggles. And we are now in our third, which is economic revolution. And I hope that's what we're going to talk about today. Hillary, I hope you can hear me still.
I can hear you, Mheshimiwa. Can you hear me? Abdi Mheshimiwa cannot hear me. Abdi, can you hear me?
I can hear loud and clear. I can hear Mheshimiwa Jimmy Wanjigi.
I can hear him, but he cannot hear me.
Okay. So we go on. Now, we are at a very important part in the nation's history. And many people are saying we are talking too much, we are not acting. We are talking because we are educating. We are talking because we are imparting knowledge. An informed public is an empowered public. We must understand the times that we're in, what we are going through, and some of us who've had the privilege to be a bit more knowledgeable about current affairs and previous affairs have got an onerous duty to impart this to our fellow Kenyan. Because if you do not know what you're dealing with, it is so easy to be divided into very parochial lines and very myopic topics. We are going through what we call the economic revolution of Kenya. And anybody who believes that the economic revolution of Kenya is not going to be as hard as our political revolution is in delusionment. The political revolution of Kenya began with the fight against the Muzungu, the colonialist. And that ended when we got independence. That was the first part of it. The second part of it was the second liberation, where we had our own leaders, our own Kenyans, our own black Kenyans, who decided that they are going to just replace the Mzungu with themselves and act the same way. So they took away our political rights. Many of you who are young do not know how powerful this medium is, how it is so good that we can talk as freely as we do today. Ruto may be trying to drag us back, but he will not succeed. We have rights that are enshrined and embedded in the 2010 Constitution that he cannot take away. We fought for it. Many Kenyans died to get us there. But in many ways than one, we reached our, what you call our peak of political liberation in the 2010 Constitution. We have the right to assemble. We have the right to have different political parties. We have a voice in the media, whether formal or social. We can gather. Many people don't know that even an MP could not call a meeting without getting a letter from a chief who had to approve his meeting, a baraza of his own constituents. We only had one media house. You could not talk until the 2010 Constitution. Although Kibaki, I must say, even though he did not have that Constitution, he had the old Constitution, gave us phenomenal freedoms in terms of our voice and our assembly. Now, this is the next period of our lives, which is called the economic revolution. Many countries choose to do different things. If you look at the history of Singapore, they decided, Lee Kuan Yew said, that I am going for economic revolution. I am going to make sure there is no hungry Singaporean. I'm going to make sure there is a modicum of full employment. I'm going to make sure that you have the highest per capita income in the world, and it is today the highest per capita income in the world. Everybody will have a house, will have free education, will have free hospital, will have unemployment insurance, will have a good pension, will have a good life. And he insisted on discipline to attain it, but he said political rights, you search for it, badai. I'm giving you economic rights. Very similar situation in China, where the Cultural Revolution identified the China man and woman. That was during the time of Mao Zedong, but he left a poverty rate of 80%. And Deng, who got in, said he is going to create an economic revolution, not a political one. If you want to fight for your political rights thereafter, go ahead and do it. And he left the country at his death with a 3% poverty rate. He brought it right down.
Let me show you Glovo. Order your favorite food and make the night na Skodiako even better. Or reward your little one and order her favorite gift. Download Glovo and order anything you want, we'll deliver.
But you cannot say that you have so-called political rights in China. You cannot. But you do have economic rights. Now, here in Kenya, we have a great advantage. The fact that we went through a huge struggle for our political rights has given us a great platform to fight for our economic rights. And those economic rights mean that we are prepared to upset a system that was embedded here over 100 years ago by the colonialists. The colonialists came here in 1897. And this colonialist came here after what they call the Scramble of Africa. This was after the Bismarck Conference in Germany, where they decided to carve Africa up and make it their spoils because they had had too many wars in Europe amongst each other. And they said they have found a place where there is plenty, where there is sunshine, where everything grows, where there is minerals, and that if they can carve it up equally, no particular country getting more power than the other, there are some Africans to go and exploit there and land to go and extract from. So they came here with a company called Royal East Africa India Company in 1897. They then changed it in 1902 to Imperial British East Africa. And a man called Mackinnon took over in 1902. Now, this company came here primarily for only three things: to exploit us, to extract from our land, and to dominate us. They are the ones who came here. They defined us. They stated who we are. They called us Bantu. They called us Nilots. They gave us our tribal names. They put us in clusters. And eventually, in 1920, they colonized us. And that same private company became the government of Kenya. That same private company that came here to exploit us, to extract from us, and dominate us became the government of Kenya. Mackinnon became governor. This is what we are talking about. So a private company became the government. The policemen that you see today and were created at that time were the watchmen of this same private company. The policeman today acts no different. He believes that ule mdosi ambayo yuko kwa ofisi is the one that's important. You who pays taxes and his salary that is outside the gate, he asks you unataka nini hapa. He doesn't know that even that public property is yours. We have a system here that has carried on for far too long, over 100 years, where a government just exploits, extracts, and dominates us. It is no different. But now we have the political rights embedded in our 2010 constitution that give us a great platform to fight this. And until you understand what you're fighting, we are just going to keep going and recycling the same leadership, the same ethos, the same direction. And people keep wondering, even 100 years on, why is Kenya never changing? Why is Sub-Saharan Africa never changing? We must understand the times we are in. So for the last 2 years plus, we have bothered, I and a few people have bothered to try and educate, to civically impart information and knowledge so that people are better informed, so that you're not manipulated into tribal cocoons, you're not manipulated into petty fights, you are not manipulated by little pennies that are doled out by politicians. You understand the real challenge before you, that this challenge is a challenge that is not only before us now, but it is for posterity, it is for generations to come. And if we seize the opportunity correctly, if we do act now and change the direction of this country, we have the greatest opportunity to change Sub-Saharan Africa, which has 1 billion plus people, and thereafter face the world as such a powerful united force, like we have seen Europe do, we've seen Southeast Asia do, we've seen China do, we have seen North America continually do, to the extent that it is the supremo superpower today. We must understand our time. Our time is economic revolution. That means that nobody here should be worrying about school fees. Nobody here should be worrying about a relative, family member, or themselves getting ill. Nobody here should be worried about whether they have a job or not. Nobody here should be worried about their pensions. Nobody should be worried about the infrastructure. Nobody should be worried in any manner or form about their security. We should have come together, and this land of plenty, this land of milk and honey, should have been producing for us. What is it that the Mzungu saw 100 years ago that our own governors has been unable to see all this time? This is what you must understand. And you must understand there is a political leadership that is embedded to make sure that we do not achieve that economic liberation. And they are just using a template that was so long ago employed by the same colonialist. And the template goes like this: 60% of us must remain at poverty level, where we are busy just looking for food. We are busy looking for nothing else but very basic needs. And that the hope of those who are looking for food in that 60% to get out of the poverty cycle is to educate their child, to pull them out of it. And if they still don't attain that, it's okay. They have a bit more empowered child that can come back and help them look for more food. Nothing else. Then you have 30% that have been embedded into what I call man-slavery and mental slavery. They are the ones who are employed. They are a salary away from poverty. They are a mortgage away. They want their kids to go to private school. They will never rock the boat because they have too much to lose and they do not want to go back to poverty. They are too embedded in looking and struggling for their daily needs to maintain a particular lifestyle. And then you have what you call the 10%. The 10% are those who actually are status quo. They want the status quo to remain, of which only 1% of those are truly governing and running this country. This is a template that was put in by the colonialists, and it has not changed since independent Kenya. That 10% is the one that says, if you are Mijikenda and your boss is at the table of the president, then the Mijikenda are full because your chief, your kingpin is eating. That means even you're eating. You, if you are a Mukamba and your boss is up there, your kingpin is up there and he's sharing the cake in that 10%, even you are getting full. This is myopic, it is colonial, it is pathetic in thinking. We are at a point of economic liberation, and these people do not want us to get it, because to emancipate us economically means that we become people that are moved by ideology, by reason. We have time to think and absorb what is correct and upward leadership. They don't want that. They are bereft of ideas. They have gone back to the old template, and that's what they're about.
Asante sana kwa kutazama Wasos TV. Huyo amekuwa ni Jimmy Wanjigi, ameweza kuzungumzia mambo mengi ambayo umeweza kuyasikia hapo. Sijui una maoni gani kuhusiana na alichosema Jimmy Wanjigi? Kama uko na maoni niachie hapo kwenye comment section. Kama hujasubscribe na kuomba uweze kusubscribe, finya notification bell ndio wakati wote tunapata habari kama hii unakuwa mtu wa kwanza kuipata. Hadi wakati mwingine, na kutakia jioni njema. Asante kwa kutazama Wasos TV. Finya notification bell, subscribe, like na share pia, inaweza kuwa jambo la busara. Asante sana.